more interaction is cost.
Mhm.
It takes up capacity. And so you've got to, understand and adjust pricing relative to customer, time demand, scheduling, and all those kind of things.
Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Greg Crabtree is back with me this week. And if you didn't hear last week's episode, we talked about the state of the economy for contractors, and he went through a lot of amazing stuff from, gross margin to what you should be doing right now and focusing on. So if you didn't listen to that episode, go back and take a listen. But this week, we're going to jump right into preparing for the next 3 to 6 months, what that should look like. What does early 2026 look like from Greg's crystal ball? So, Greg, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So what's it look like? What do you think in the next 3 to 6 months, given where we are right now here in December?
Yeah, I mean, really right now, we don't see any immediate economic catalyst, that's going to create an uptick in the market. And so you're in a what we call a street fight economy to go get the work that exists. So the company's not going backwards. I mean, so and it's like, we've got kind of gotten uh, spoiled with a constantly growth message of the economy.
Mm.
And that's great, but right now it's just not there. So in that particular case, you're going to see inconsistencies of demand. It happens to hit at a very bad time for most everybody, that unless you are doing snow removal or winter weather kinds of landscape hardscape projects, you're going to have the least amount of activity during the next 3 to 4 months. And so as much as you can get lean without destroying your capacity, because hey, you want to have capacity to be ready for 3 to 4 months from now, when there'll be normal demand, I believe, unless something happens that we can't see on the horizon. So you can't destroy your capability, but you got to be reasonable about what capability you want to go after. And this is where we talk about aligning the business engine to the chassis. So the business engine is three numbers: revenue minus cost of goods sold is gross margin, and gross margin minus direct labor is contribution margin. So revenue, COGS, direct labor are the three components of the business engine: one, revenue, and two, cost. And so when you look at that, now here's the thing of why we separate labor from cost of goods sold. All of you are running, all of you, there's no exception. All of you are running a committed labor model. You do not flex labor. You think you flex labor. You do not flex labor. I can do a rolling 12 calculation of your labor, and that line is flat as a pancake. You're not turning it up or turning it down. You've got your people that you're committed. It might be slightly trending upwards, but it's not slightly trending downwards. And so from that standpoint, your labor acts differently from cost of goods sold, which is project specific. And so you got some higher COGS, and you got high COGS and little labor projects. You got high labor and little COGS projects. And so that's the reason why those labor should never be fixed with other COGS. And so, we talked about in the previous episode, you got to be a gross margin thinker. And so you evaluate projects on your relative gross margin. And here's the thing: the best contractors do this reliably every time. They beat the project quote. They spend less on the COGS, but mostly they spend less on the labor and get it done in less time and make extra profit because they got it done and got to the next thing. And that is a massive overlooked profitability component. Especially, it's more important in the slow periods of the season, because you don't want to fall in love with your backlog and be, slow down because I don't want to run out of work.
Yeah,
No, you want to run out of work. I'll challenge you. Try to run out of work
I
and just
love it.
give everybody Friday off with pay, and
Yeah.
you'll be fine. And so, but those are the critical things at this particular element. And you really want to make sure that if you can't operate on a rolling three positive cash flow basis, you haven't cut enough operating costs. You should get through the winter in 99% of the cases without losing money.
Hmm.
Now you might not make any money, but on a roll, I'll give you a month, but on a rolling three basis, we got to get through the winter months and not make any negative cash flow.
Got it. I love that. I love that. And when it comes down to it, do you think there's anything in particular that contractors should be thinking about investing in? Maybe soft skills, maybe equipment. Like, what are you thinking would be a good? I know you mentioned last episode about,
Yeah.
only that the premium contractors are going to be the ones that are going to really take market share right now, right? So,
Okay.
what could they invest in? Anybody listening that would really move the needle for them, not just in 2026, but in the future as well?
I think a mindset around soft selling capability. One of the things that have moved the sales needle more than anything in the last year is human to human interaction.
Hmm.
Now, I know that sounds shocking, but it's not Google AdWords. And yeah, I mean, digital marketing has its place, but that is massively changing in this AI search related marketplace.
Yep.
But every time you show up and have interaction with the customer, you're being invited to use your eyes to look around and say, what else needs to be done?
Yep.
And they've all lied to you about their hard budget. And, maybe 1 out of 10 has a hard budget,
Yep.
in reality. If you identify, I talk about the simple numbers business strategy is three things. One, figure out what the market needs. Number two, can I be profitable meeting that need? Number three, how do I tell everybody about it?
Yep.
Well, my eyes, I'm doing the original quote, and yes, I want to stay focused and take care of the customer on that. But I'm looking around to see, hey, what else can we do to enhance this place of living? Because I've been floored. All of our renovation contractors have not suffered in demand one bit over the last 2 years, and that is surprising because it is discretionary. That is
Mhm.
not a necessary spend.
That's right.
But we have an insatiable desire to make the place we live better because the marketplace is economically deficient to allow me to sell my current house and get a different house.
Mhm.
And that's going to continue for the next probably 5 years. And so you're dealing into what we call a highly desired discretionary marketplace, making home beautification. And so invest in the soft skills and the business strategies and possibly expansion of the things you offer. And so it's like everything is worthy if the customer is willing to pay for it. And don't think that you're above doing anything because when it when when business is falling into you, you get focused, focus, focus. When business you're trying to fight to go get business, you expand the things that you want to be able to do. And so look at the expansion of things that people will value, and you got the perfect thing in a sales environment. You got a willing customer that you've proven to yourself to be worthy, trustworthy, good at what you do. That just makes give them a quote and they say yes.
Yep. Yep. And I think you hit on something really powerful there, listeners, and
Yeah.
hope you picked up on this. With people right now, with you had mentioned a huge majority of people, I think you said 60% of mortgages are around 3%. There is no logical reason why anybody would move out of their house. So
Yeah.
here's the perfect scenario. We have people now that are stuck in their house and they want to make it nice, right? It's almost like it was back in COVID, but with a different
Mhm.
multiplier, right? But the point is, they're not going to move until those numbers start to make sense. They get them into the high fours,
Yeah.
maybe, right? And that's not coming fast. I mean, even this week, today is the 9th of December. Tomorrow, the
Mhm.
Fed's supposed to meet and drop rates. I know a lot of listeners think when they drop the interest rates that it hits Main Street. It doesn't. It doesn't hit Main
No,
Street. So 25-point drop is not going to hit Main Street at 25 points. We might not see anything.
no, you
So
won't. You actually won't see anything. Yeah.
yeah, so we have to disconnect those two, that cart and that horse. But the reality is
Mhm.
here that people are stuck in their houses, and I know my mortgage is sub 3%. There's no way I would move out of this house to do that, to get a 6 or 7% mortgage right now, unless I was forced to, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, why would they do it? They can't go in and pull home equity loans out at 6, 7%. They're not going to do that. So now we're dealing with people that actually have the money sitting in savings or in the market,
Yeah.
and they're seeing the market appreciations. They want to
We,
pull and
we
take
do
some.
we do actually it doesn't make economic sense, but we do see people advancing on renovation projects and tapping their home equity line
Mm,
because in their mind, and this goes back into behavioral economics because it doesn't make sense literally, but it
yep,
makes sense emotionally. So
yep,
people will tap into their home equity line because they feel like, oh, I can work it off and it's not a long-term loan.
yep.
So whether they can or not, to be determined. But here's the thing though, that in the renovation world, in improving an existing property of one type or another, especially exterior, you know, your ability to communicate and and craft a vision of what people want to do is so critical.
Mm,
And I would invest in being better at storytelling, because I would bet everybody's listening to this have done at least a handful of projects that you're really proud of that shows off your skill and ability. And so every one of those successful projects is a pattern that you can use as leverage to tell your story of what you do and what you transformed, in that ability. And when demand is off the chart, you're just going out and doing a quote and you're listening to them and they say how much and when can you start, and we're not in that kind of an environment now. And so, but here's the thing: is we talked about in the previous episode of investing in AI tools, the ability to create visualizations, to create and tell your story, to take pictures and things that you've done in the past and put
mm,
it in a much more presentable way for your potential customers to see the quality of your work. I mean, it's never been better in terms of the ability to put it in your hands, and you don't have to go spend $50,000 with a marketing firm, to develop a portfolio of showing off, your skill set. It's something that you can take a teenager and over a weekend, and they'll help you work through the technology if you feel like your technology is challenged in that process.
it's
And,
wild.
and and
Yeah,
feed them some pizza and buy them a video game or something, but that's
it's
kind
true
of the
though.
world it
It
is.
is. It is. These young ones get it fast.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I think those are the kind of things that, I'm bullish on the industry. It's just that understand, just like taking a flight, there's some turbulence.
Mhm,
And the two turbulences are you got to get through the winter time, lean and mean. And then, in the busy times, you've really got to get focused on getting things through, as fast as you can and commit to, kind of the size that you want to be. And don't say yes to everything. Just say yes to the right things.
yeah, I love that.
And I think the marketplace is going to be tough enough that the fringe competitors that we saw take up, some of the space during 21 and 22, they're exiting, and a lot of them are gone actually already. So I think from that standpoint, yes, the marketplace is tough, but the silver lining is if you're a good business, you want this. Oh,
Yep,
this
yep,
is
yep.
where you separate from
Mm,
the other rest of the business.
I love it. No, there's never been a better time, and I think in our lifetimes to see this happening than right now.
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of guys, and some have no work whatsoever, and other ones they're doing really well. There's a whole mix depending on where you are in the country, but at the same time, this is a chance for the true leaders to emerge because they're going to have to be listening to podcasts like this or other ones, reading books, and constantly
Mm,
growing. The ones that have just rested on their laurels and said, you know what, I learned how to sell when I was 12, and I'm still doing the same thing, and they're going to get choked out because the ones that are leading are the ones that are spending the time and the money to master those skills, those soft skills. And in that, they have the opportunity and an incredible upper hand when it comes to communicating and finding what the client truly needs, wants, and desires, not necessarily just what they tell you.
yeah,
Right. And you become
exactly.
that
Yeah.
guide and that advisor. So, and listeners, I didn't talk to Greg about this before this. So it's kind of
Mhm.
amazing that he's coming to this conclusion as well. And there's been no better time in history to update those skills that you have. And if somebody on your team is not locked in as either the opener or the closer or both, in your
Yeah.
operation, you're going to suffer because other ones are. I know a lot of guys that are spending a lot of good money and time to making sure that they are mastering this in their market.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. Yeah. But
Yeah.
but like I said, I'm really bullish on, the good companies will have enough work, but but don't overcommit to a chassis of the business that is too
Mhm.
big that I just got to continue to feed. which forces me into those covering overhead bids.
Yep. Yep.
And when the first sign of warning that I got to get serious about cutting and getting back to my safe zone is when I issue a bid that's going to just cover overhead.
Just cover expenses. Just keep the
That's a
guys. I
bad
hear it all the
sign.
time. Like, I just got to keep the guys working. I'm like, that's covering overhead. That's
That's right.
not what you want to do. No, we need to go back and start cutting back the things that are driving that decision, and to become much leaner and much smarter on your numbers, so you know what's going on
Well,
here.
and here's another thing that I would put out there too is I would leave schedule flexibility for quick response work. And there are times that it's a repair of something and there's an event coming up. I got a party at the house, and so those people aren't price sensitive. And so, but if you schedule up, and if you're just, everybody stop saying this, I'm booked up for the next 6 months, I'm
Mhm.
booked up for the next 3 months. Well, you got to do a better job. I mean, that is not good scheduling, in that part.
Yep. Yep.
So
No, I totally understand, and that's, you want to be like sure you have some space in a schedule, because to your point, if someone needs it right away and there's a party coming, they're not price sensitive, and if they are, then you just bounce them. But if they aren't price sensitive and they need the work done, then that's a high margin opportunity for you for sure. So it's a very important consideration here as we move through into
yeah,
winter. So,
absolutely.
Greg, I'd love to
Well,
jump into. Oh, go ahead. You have
yeah,
something
yeah.
else you want to add?
Well, we take this idea of scheduling from the dental industry. So if you walk into a dentist office, if they find during the hygiene exam that you've got a crown, cosmetic dentistry, or root canal, they magically have an opening this afternoon that they can see
Mm,
you.
yeah.
And that didn't magically happen. That's because they left the schedule. They leave a couple of slots for high value, short notice procedures. Because of filling, you can wait 3 months.
Mhm.
It's not urgent. And we see all of the businesses. We got several contractors that they will make more profit on a $300,000 project than they'll make on $1 million project because emergency pricing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to position. There's two things. You got to keep the mindset of the marketplace, knowing that you're good at that. So get the word out, and just quit saying how scheduled up you are. Just take the bid, and we'll look at the schedule and see if we can kind of work it in and blah blah blah. But you're killing yourself by being proud about how long your backlog is.
That's definitely a pride and ego thing, right? Like, how much work you got? I got 6 months of work. And I'm thinking, like, man, what about that high value work that comes in? It needs to be done right away. That they would pay premium plus, but you don't
Exactly.
have time for it. You're chasing just enough to cover overhead because you were worried in the winter you didn't have any work, and now you're building it in the spring, losing money. People want to give you money in the spring, but you don't have time for them. So it's like,
Well, Well,
yeah.
and to example, I got a family friend that I'm helping get into the plumbing business, and we were talking about at a get together, over the holidays, that he was working into the night, and I said, listen, I mean, that's, that's a higher rate. I mean, yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. And if I call you out there, out to my house, and after hours on a weekend, I expect to pay the premium rate
Yeah.
because you're doing me a favor
Mm,
and you're a good guy, but you got to make sure you charge differently for that time versus standard scheduled work, that was not urgent,
yeah. That's so
and
true. It's so
get
true.
away from it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some mindset and discipline things that we need to be thinking of as owners going into 2026 here? What are some things that we should be working on?
Well, it still goes back to, I mentioned this on the previous episode, but I'll dig a little further in it. So it's the three P's. I mean, so start with pricing.
Mhm.
Well, we just talked about. I mean, if
Mhm.
you're charging the same price for everything, you're charging the same price to every customer, you're missing it. Not every customer is the same. It's not that, it's not about their willingness to pay, but some customers are more difficult. They're going to require more interaction. More interaction is cost. It
Mhm.
takes up capacity, and so you've got to understand and adjust pricing relative to customer time, demand, scheduling, and all those kind of things. Secondly, do, do you have the best processes and tools for your team to be at their peak of their game? I grew up on a chicken farm, and I saw my dad try to fix everything with wire pliers and baling wire. and we didn't even have duct tape.
Yeah.
So I mean, so it's like I swore that when I got to be an adult, I wouldn't take on any task unless I had the appropriate tools,
Hmm.
and it makes a difference. But then the third, I really think that do you want to be the Indiana Hoosiers football team of old that was the losingest program until this year in the history of college Division I college football, or else do you want to be the Indiana Hoosiers that in 2 years have gone from the doghouse, to the penthouse, and now sitting on top of the college football playoff because they spent the money and got the results.
Yeah.
So it's not just spending the money. You've got to have leadership and focus and vision and get the
Yep.
results out of that spend. But you can't shrink your way to greatness, and so you really got to make those investments, and you got to have invest in the right people. But if I pay more for a person, I've got to expect more output from that person because I
Hmm.
paid more. And there's a point of no return that's too high, and there's a point of no return and no value that, just because there's somebody's cheap, they can't do what you need,
Yeah.
and so you can't live on either extreme. And if you get those pricing process and people decisions right, you will be number one or number two in your market. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing everybody needs to understand: the competition sucks. I mean, tell me when the last time you were just overwhelmed by the process and the professionalism and the quality of the customer service. We don't have too many of those recent interactions.
Especially not in the contracting world.
No, no, the
It's
bar
not.
is really low.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You just got to be able to listen and to be able to articulate and bring into reality a design and then bring it to life with a great experience for the clients. And holy moly, that's really all the bar needs to be. And that would
Uh,
automatically put you in a different realm.
well, and you make a good point there, and because in the past with the tools that we had, if you were a good visioner of the project, you
Hmm.
probably were not a good executor.
Right.
And if you were a good executor, you sucked on creating the vision.
Yep.
And to our previous discussion of AI tools and all of these things that we now have, I think the people are now into the capabilities of you can be a great visioner and a great executor all in the same body. And
Hmm.
that is a really powerful skill set.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's ultimately customers, specifically that are hiring contractors. One thing that they're very, very aware of is the uncertainty that comes with that buy, right? There's so many things that go wrong in contracting and there's so many fears that they have deep down. And, the question is, how as companies are we, risk reversing that? How are we making that less and less of a problem for them?
Yeah.
And if we're not focusing on those things, then we're just like everybody else. And then your bid's going to be compared to everybody else's because you're just like them. Why would they go further? Why would they think there's any more value that you're offering? Because you've got price and value. Which is it going to be? They're going to focus on one or the other.
Right.
And if you're not adding more value, then they're going to go to price.
And really, I would say focus on removing the word busy from your vocabulary,
Oh,
because busy just means you're not good at process. And so
boom.
if you are planned, execute faithfully, busy means there's a slot on the calendar to take care of anything that comes up.
Yeah.
Because if I'm busy and an over calendared, I accepted more than what I had capacity to faithfully do, and that's a dumb decision.
Yeah.
You don't have to say yes all the time. There's
That's
some
right.
work that's worthy to be turned down. It's okay.
100%. Well, Greg, I appreciate your time coming on here and always
Yeah.
imparting your wisdom on us. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners here before we wrap up?
No, I think we gave them enough to chew on. Like I said, I think just let this word of optimization sink into your brain,
Mm,
and really, I think you will be prepared to grow when the growth is there, but you will, be able to adapt if, your particular marketplace goes soft for a while, and you gotta make some adjustments to stay in the game.
Well, Greg, as always, thank you.
Yep.
And we'll talk to you here in a few months and get a better sense of what's coming
All right.
next. But all the
Looking
things you
forward to
keep
it.
telling us, it keeps getting us ramped up and ready to go. So appreciate you, sir. And we'll talk soon.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yep. Bye.